Welcome to Healing the Patriarchy with Love podcast. I'm your host Luna, and together we're becoming rebels of the heart, one show at a time. You're listening to the Healing the Patriarchy with Love podcast. I'm your host Luna, and today we're very blessed to have the presence of Emma Lowther-Wright with us. Emma is the director of the Mandala Centre, which is a not-for-profit community of wellbeing for all based in the city of Preston in Lancashire in the UK. The aim of the Mandala Centre is a force for good in the community by uplifting everyone it serves, through offering the highest quality teaching, therapies and services in a truly welcoming and inclusive environment, thereby offering real connection. I just love that. I absolutely love it. So Emma, hello and welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you here with us, and thank you for giving up your precious time to be here today to talk to us all.
Oh, thank you, beautiful. It's a pleasure and an honour to chat with you.
Yeah, I feel honoured to have you here to talk to us about this because just for the listeners, so they've got a bit of background, you know, I know Emma because I used to attend classes at the Mandala Centre and then went on to hire rooms to do meditations there. And it's a truly beautiful place. And, you know, the bio that I've just read out there is true. That is actually what that place is like. It's not just, you know, sometimes marketing can be a bit kind of what should we say, up level. What you've written there is, you know, that is absolutely true. I just took that off your website because I loved it, because to me that is what I got when I went there and when I hired the rooms there. And I just fell in love with the place and with Emma because she's so lovely, and I did get a very warm welcome there. And I want to celebrate what Emma is doing there because it's very unique. And I believe it's the future. It's so what I would like to see more of in the world. So, Emma, do you want to kind of... Oh, you're welcome, honestly, thank you. So, do you want to tell us a little bit, Emma, about how you came to be the director of the Mandala Centre? I'm just kind of curious, you know, what kind of path must have led you to
yeah, of course, yeah. So I was always a very spiritual child. My baby brother always used to call me a hippie. Right from being a kid. I was raised Catholic, but you know, I will, you know, in kindness, you know, in that kind of mode. My dad, his parents were spiritualists, and so there was always that, and really into social action, you know, very much into fairness, kindness, standing up for others, you know, for justice, for fairness and for kindness in the world. So that was always my outlook, and I was always also a very active human being. You know, I never sort of sat still. I was always really interested in the body and that mind-body connection. But I went to university and I, you know, drank the Kool-Aid and believed that what you do is, you know, what the university system tells you to do, which is you go and you get a job in a blue chip company and, you know, you try to move to the city and, you know, success is by your position, you know, in a company. And, you know, so I went and I worked for companies, I worked in the corporate world, and there was a definite sense of lack, and I bounced about quite a lot. You know, I couldn't really find my home. Places didn't seem to, I didn't, you know, feel like they fit. I did eventually, I did work for a wonderful organisation run by a fabulous, very socialist guy who was also very spiritual. His wife was very spiritual in helping people grow their own food, which was lovely. Wow. And I ran the company really for them for, gosh, about 13 years. But there was just a sense of lack, and that this wasn't my dharma. This isn't where I was supposed to be. I had really bad IBS, so bad that I went to hospital and had scans and things. You know, it was very painful. I also have endometriosis. And the scans all came back fine, but I had a kink in my colon, which, you know, sort of meant that it's difficult to digest foods. And wonderfully, a doctor said to me, "Oh, you need to exercise more." And I was like, "I do loads of exercise, you know." And he's like, "No, you need to do it. You need to find a different form." And I thought, oh, well, I need yoga in my life. And I stepped on the mat. I went to an Ashtanga yoga class and thought I was going to die, didn't, and completely fell in love with it from that moment, and practiced yoga daily from then. My sinusitis went, I slept better, I was much more playful, I was more joyful, I was more connected to my body, to other people. My IBS went. And it was just, you know, this magical awakening. So, you know, years later, my yoga teacher asked me to train to teach. So I did, and then I was mentored as well. And then one day, the lady who ran the Mandala Centre, we were just chatting, and she said, "Would you consider taking this place on?" And she looked stunned that she'd said it. And I said, "Yes." And she said, "I have no idea where that came from. I had not planned. I hadn't even thought about this, but something in the universe clearly at that moment, you know, we had that moment of connection. And from then on, it was like, okay, let's do this." So that's how I am at Mandala.
Well, I just love that. That's the divine speaking through people. There's two clear examples of that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Just in that one story. And I'm so glad that you did take it over. So do you want to kind of lead us on from there? You know, what was it like taking over, and how did you kind of shape it into what it is now?
Yeah, so at first I was still working a corporate job and teaching part-time and running the studio and maintaining my daily practice. And I wanted to be on my mat with other humans rather than behind my desk with beautiful humans that I worked with. You know, I loved what I did in the corporate world as well. But it became increasingly obvious to the chairman of the company that I was going to leave, and more quickly than I said I was going to leave, because I was hardly ever at work. I was taking so much unpaid leave. And then Popsy, my dear beloved daddy, he got very sick. He had chronic pain, and he'd been sick for quite some time, and he had lymphoma. And he was too weak for any sort of treatments, medications. And he was taken into a hospital, and it was July 2019. And he was in Blackpool Hospital. And then it was suggested that he could get better treatment at a specialist unit in Sheffield. So we said, yes, let's go there. And I phoned work and I said, my Popsy is going to hospital in Sheffield. I'm here in Preston. I'm not coming into work until he's better. And I was like, if they sack me, they sack me. I don't care. And they said, yeah, absolutely fine. You know, we'll figure it out. Literally, they said, that's why I felt at home there, because we're beautiful humans. And I stayed with him in Sheffield. I think it's about a month. And that was it then. He came back and I went back to work and I said, I'm resigning. And I did. But between sort of, you know, I'd already been running the studio part-time, I think, for about, oh gosh, I don't know, 2-3 years then. And I knew that I wanted the mandala to be representative of what I feel yoga really is about, which is about social action. It's about getting rid of this illusion of separation. It's about connectivity. It's about empowering people to heal. It's about developing. Really, I kind of say it's about paying attention to yourself so that you can gift yourself what it is that you need. And that when you care for yourself like that, you fall in love with yourself. and we should all fall in love with ourselves. And that when we are in love with ourselves, then our relationship with everybody else improves as well. And that can't help but trickle out into the world. You know, everybody we meet, everybody in the street, somebody who's in love with themselves and is joyful and feels connected will smile at other people in the street. I'm late everywhere because I talk to everybody on the street. And that is what the world needs, isn't it? It needs more connection. It needs more love. It needs people to care for themselves, care for each other, and realize that we're all interdependent with other humans, interdependent on the waterways, interdependent on all plant life, all animal life, and this beautiful self-balancing, living, breathing organism we get to call home, this beautiful planet Earth. I don't know if I went off on one there, but that's what I wanted Mandala to be. And therefore, of course, it meant that it had to feel really welcoming. We had to have that ethos at our very heart. And community work was going to be really important. That I wanted it to be really clear that yoga is not about how flexible you are. It isn't for skinny, rich white women, which is what Instagram tries to portray. And I was, absolutely adamant that, I'm from a working class background, I wanted it to be for everybody. I wanted it to be for men. I wanted it to be people of all sizes. I wanted it to be, transgender. I wanted everybody to feel welcome, either at the studio or for those who, stepping into a yoga studio, might feel too challenging, that I would go to them. That I would go and work in community centres, that I would go and work, in Deafway, for example, that I would go work, in housing association, community spaces. That's what, in homeless shelters, to really, in order to connect with people where they were at. Scott Johnson, a wonderful yoga teacher who I studied with, and a beautiful human. He's a student of my teacher who trained me fully, John Scott. And he said to me that always meet people where they're at. And for me, that meant not just, emotionally and physically, but, in their bodies, but physically where they're comfortable being in the spaces that they're at. So that's where our community work came in. Also, because of my Popsy's experiences with chronic pain and anxiety, that was really important to me. I had worked with him on posture and breath practices that helped him with his chronic pain, and he was so proud of that. I would tell people in hospital, bless him. My daughter's a yoga teacher and she taught me this preflexing was being super annoying. But I was really passionate about ensuring that people, because, people with chronic pain would tend to think, yoga isn't for me because it's about, doing headstands or whatever. But actually the breath practices, the postural practices, the gratitude practices, the awareness practices, these can be so healing. They can really help us to not layer suffering on top of our current suffering. And so I worked with chronic pain peer groups through sort of NHS-led organisations, working with practices for chronic pain, and that led into practices for anxiety. And then people started to talk about me around Preston. And other community groups started to get in touch and ask me if I could work with their groups. And that's how we got to where we are now.
Gosh, what a journey. You did cut out a little bit in some parts, by the way. Just, I don't know if that's your microphone or if it's...
Oh, sorry, let me get closer in.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, I love that. We could hear you, don't worry. It's just occasionally it just kind of bumped a little bit. And I love that Popsy has been such an integral part of the journey as well. And I'm so sorry that, he suffered like he did, but how wonderful that you were able to help him. And yoga really does actually help. I've actually started doing it myself. Just I've got a lot of chronic illnesses, so I can only manage sort of 10 minutes a day chair yoga at the moment. But what a difference it has made. I'm so much stronger in my body and more present.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's stunning. It really is stunning. And I like the way you've just explained that, the centre is like an extension of yoga, isn't it, really? It's kind of a representation of what yoga really is.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic that you've done that and that you've had the wisdom and the awareness to actually see that that's something that can be done in the community.
Thank you.
Do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about what is happening in the community? What kind of things are you doing? What are you involved in?
Yeah, so I can go through my week because it's so varied. So on a Monday morning, what a joyous start to the week. I am blessed to have, I go to the Plungington Community Centre, and there are about 30 ladies there, mostly between the ages of 65 and 88, I think. And we dance, which is just beautiful. And we dance to all different genres of music. There are chairs out. Some of the ladies sit and do seated dance all the way through. Some sit for some of the time. Some are up and skipping about the whole time. When I started with them, they were all sitting the whole time. Now they are whooping, they are hollering, they are fists up in the air. We will rock you and Born to be Wild going on. They tango, they cha-cha, it's just joyous, absolutely joyous. Then they have a cuppa and a chat, and then they practice chair yoga with me. And again, these ladies, when they started, they were all seated, they were all slumped forward. Now they stand, although it's chair yoga, they stand. And their postures are beautiful. They all stand like gorgeous goddesses, which is how we all should, with our hearts lifted and open. When we do that, when we stand or we sit with that courage and that openness, that's how we feel in the mind, don't we? And it affects how people come and interact with us. So that's on Mondays. That's our community work on a Monday. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I'm at the wonderful Sahara, which is a not-for-profit organisation which works with Black, Asian and ethnic minority women. So again, we work on chair yoga with those ladies. I work with yoga for women with MS, chair-based and using bars for movement. Wednesday is my favourite day. They're really busy. I then go to the Foxton homeless day shelter on Fox Street, which is an amazing space. People can go there, they can get advice, food, clothing, support, and they can come and drum with me. So we have a drum circle. It's so fun. So we chat and we drum, and then we have yoga classes at the Foxton Community Centre as well, where people can come. That's open to families, open to all ages, and then have some lunch together. So everything that I do, it wraps around with being also, that connection is so important, whether that be food or a cup of tea, a chat, but it's not, oh, come move a bit, breathe a bit and then leave. It's about that connection with each other, which is really important. So yeah, we've got plenty going on in the community and it's all beautiful. And because I live in the city centre and I walk everywhere, I bump into people all the time. Just today, I went to have my hair done, and on the way back, I saw one of the beautiful chaps who I see at the homeless day shelter, and another beautiful chap that I see at the community centre, and had a lot of chat with those. It's just so lovely to get those connections on a daily basis. And it's been shown that it's not just those long, deep friendships of people. We have people who we call close friends, aren't we? That it's not just those that matter for our mental and emotional well-being, that it is these sort of casual interactions, I think they call them, it's being seen, isn't it, and being heard. That's really important, and that you matter and somebody cares that you were there, and that you're received with a smile, you're recognized. That's so important for us, and that's what I'm lucky, I'm blessed that that's what we've got here in this community of so many people. I think each week I teach between 150 and 200 people in Preston.
Wow. That's impressive. I'm very impressed with everything that you're doing there, actually. And what I got a real sense of when you were talking then is that, you are taking so much light to places and people that might be struggling to find the light. It's maybe not that accessible to them as it might be to somebody that's privileged, or that doesn't have the same challenges that they're having. If you've got a fairly kind of run-of-the-mill life, it can still, obviously, you can still find it difficult to find the light, but it's generally a bit easier than if you've got an awful lot of trauma, like it sounds like some of those people have, as well as having, the social injustice that still exists in this world at this time. And I feel like you're leveling that playing field a bit just with this work. It's fantastic. Honestly, I really admire what you're doing. Thank you, Emma, for doing it.
Oh, thank you. It's an absolute joy. Actually, just today in the hairdressers was another lady I bumped into, and she's one of the ladies who comes on a Monday to the groove and the yoga, the dance and the yoga. I think she's 86, and she's so beautiful. She just dances. She goes into her 20-year-old self, and she was saying herself that she's noticed the other ladies, and she mentioned one in particular, and she said, and just seeing this other lady blossom and bloom, and she said, I hadn't seen her smile like that. And she said, and you were talking to her and she had you in stitches. She said, I don't know what you were talking about, but you were both laughing away. And she said, and she was so much freer in her movements, and then the cup of tea, she was much more confident. And that place, people say that sometimes it's the only faces that they physically see in the week, and that it feels safe. And that's really important. People who've experienced trauma, of course, as we know, they don't, the world they're experiences, to them, it makes sense that the world isn't a safe place. That's what their experiences have taught them. And that, humans aren't to be trusted. And that's, I hope that we can help people to feel safe, and that there are humans who can be trusted. And it's really beautiful to know and to experience that is how people experience the sessions together. It's just such a beautiful thing to do. It's such a gift that I have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it's so uplifting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I did used to run the Good Goddess project, as you know, that kind of worked with refugees and women in refuge. And we did a circle with the women who were, refugees and asylum seekers for various reasons. It could be war, persecution, climate disaster, trafficking. People forget that people are fleeing real, atrocities. Yeah. And, we did dance with them, and art and massage and various different things, and beauty and hair one day, which was hilarious. And it was just so heartwarming to be a part of that, and to be able to, as you so eloquently put it, to help them to reinstate the truth that people generally are safe. Of course, there are some unsafe people out there, but there's much more safe people than there are unsafe.
Yeah.
It's kind of renewing that faith in them, isn't it? So that they can step out into the world and rebuild. Often they need to rebuild their lives, don't they, people in these sort of communities? Yeah. So I can really relate to, how you're saying it's a gift. It is. That's what it feels like when you're doing that. I know.
Yeah.
I just wondered, would it be okay to kind of take you back in time a little bit?
Oh, yes, please.
Not that far. You want to go to Studio 54, don't you?
I do. You've got me in my sequence.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not teleporting you that far back. I just wondered if we could go back to the pandemic, because I know something that you did during the pandemic that I thought was just so beautiful, and heart opening, and I was just in awe of what you did, and you know, it was a time when Popsy passed away.
Mhm.
And you yourself were grieving, and of course it was in terrible circumstances during the pandemic, because you know, people weren't allowed to gather, which is what would normally happen if somebody was grieving. And you saw that, and you did something to help a community of grieving people. So are you okay to maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Popsy went into hospital on the 21st of February. And at first we were allowed to visit, and then we were not. And he couldn't understand that. He was so poorly. And he died. He died in hospital on the first day of lockdown. And I'd mentally and emotionally prepared myself for Popsy's passing. And I'd been to see my closest, oldest, dearest friend just before Christmas. And I will never forget her energy at this point. And she said, you would give anything for your Popsy to be well. And, you know, there are other people who are not connected with their family at all. And I think that's a shame. And I said to her, do you know, it's okay because, and she was really sad for me. And I said, it's okay because I know that I've got the safety net of you and my friends and my family, and I'll be caught. You'll catch me. So the shock of that not being able to happen because there was nobody there and we weren't supposed to leave our houses was enormous. Now, I was really fortunate that one that I had such a beautiful Popsy who to miss, you know, which is such a gift, and a wonderful family, but also so fortunate that because of belonging to the Mandala community, that I had this ability to continue to connect with community, even if it was digitally. And so that's what I continue to do. And as a yoga teacher, I'm really honest. You know, that's Satya. It's one of the core principles of yoga. And my practice is a real lived practice to help me live with ease. And I thought, well, you know, grief is such a huge thing, and everybody's grieving in some way. Everybody's lost something. You know, they may have lost a fellow human. They may have lost their connection with work colleagues, you know, their ability to see their families, their friends. They may have lost their jobs, you know, what there was loss going on. And so I talked very openly about loss through Facebook posts and, you know, stories and videos and writings throughout the pandemic. And I delivered classes online, holding space for that loss, holding space. There was so much talk at the time, this, I'm going to call it toxic positivity. And that was the narrative at the time. The media narrative was about, this is brilliant, we're all baking banana bread. I thought, well, not. So, you know, no, oh, we're all sunning ourselves now, guys. No, we don't all have gardens. We don't all have, you know, we can't all afford to make bread. We haven't all been privileged, you know, to be able to do that. Many people are actually still working and are scared about the work that they're doing. And so I actually wanted us to be honest and to talk about all of the grief that was happening, and to allow ourselves to feel that, you know, because it's felt in the body, and to release that. And so I held classes every day, several times a day. There's one every morning, just a really short one, and then every evening, where we could move and we could breathe and we could meditate together. And that was really, really beautiful. And I was also working on a project with They Eat Culture, where we interviewed people. Apart from we didn't really interview people, we just let people talk about what their experiences were, really honestly, without any judgment or expectation, about how they were experiencing the pandemic. And it was pretty unanimous that people were grieving, that people were experiencing loss at that time, and for that to be honoured, to let go of that expectation that everyone had to talk about how great things were, was, I think, really important. And I think we don't talk about death in our culture at all. And I think that there's a denial of that death is inevitable. There's a denial that aging is inevitable. When we don't talk about death, when we see it as something that is to be avoided, and that is something that's always bad. Popsy, he was only 67, but he was in so much pain, and that wasn't going to get better. The cancer was progressing, and it was, it was time. It was the release. Why wish for somebody to get more sick, to suffer more? And we try to run away from the pain of grief, but grief is love. If the grief is huge, if the grief is painful, if your heart aches and is heavy and it burns and there is rage, that is an indication of how much love you got to experience with this being. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to sit with that and to witness that and be like, oh my gosh, what a privilege to have experienced that much love, that it feels that big, that it's that big. And when something's that big, that person's not going anywhere. They're staying with you and they're going to shine with you. And you can make a choice, of course, to not do that. But yoga is this practice of not pushing anything away. Devesha and raga, not running towards that which is pleasurable all the time, and not pushing away that which you have a preference, against. Suffering is about preference. It's a living in preference. If you can sit with what is, then there is no suffering. And that's what I wanted to really communicate and work with people on. So yeah, that's what I did.
You did it with bells on. Because I was fortunate enough to witness it and also to be helped by it, because the time of the pandemic was just, I really loved what you were doing, because I was smashed to pieces. Absolutely, I was terrified, and I actually had a nervous breakdown because I'd just fled a lifetime of abuse and ended up in the middle of nowhere where I knew no one, and services were cut back, and they were saying, oh well, nobody can come and see you, just kind of like, sort of like tough, really. You're going to have to just kind of survive on your own. And I was so scared and sad. The grief, I felt such grief, not just for my life, but for what was happening in the world. And I love that you addressed that. And I thought it was so brave of you to address it at a time when you were grieving yourself, because as you say, your heart is just burning, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ache inside you when you're grieving at that, at that degree, it can feel like overwhelming if you don't kind of surrender it to love yourself.
That's it. I love that, surrendering it to love. That's exactly it, isn't it? And if we can do that, then it's okay. And I think I don't think there was ever a more truthful time in my life. I think, when you grieve, and whether it's because, like your situation, or whether it's because you've lost somebody, it is so huge that you do have an opportunity to just be complete. If you let yourself just, as you said, surrender it to love, you are living in absolute authenticity. And that's beautiful. Without story, without narrative, just the beauty of what is. You know, I think it's a gift. If we don't run from it, it's a gift.
Yeah, and I also liked, I didn't know about yoga, that there's, you know, kind of the philosophy in there, not to kind of run towards your preference and not to avoid things. That's something that I talk about quite a lot as well on my own Facebook page, even though I'm not, of course, not trained in yoga. And as I said, I've only just started doing it. But yeah, I love that again, you're being the living embodiment of that, not just, you know, kind of it's for talk. You are actually the living embodiment. You love in action with the way you are about yoga. And what a great example you are of a yoga teacher. That's just incredible.
Oh, thank you. It's the thing with yoga is that it is when you live authentically with awareness, then it all makes sense, which is, you know, why you said you're not trained in yoga, but that you talk about all the time, this not running away and towards running away from things that we don't like and towards things that we do. That's because you are authentic and you are paying attention to your processes. And that's what the ancients did. They were just paying really close attention. And when we do that, this stuff makes sense. The whole of yoga philosophy makes sense. And that was, you know, my attraction to it. And that it doesn't make our lives easier, but it helps us live with great ease. It helps us not layer suffering on top of suffering. It helps us to, somebody said to me the other day when I was talking to them about yoga, it was some counseling students who'd come for a day with me. And they said that what they got from the time with me at the Mandala was that it's a different way of being in the world. And it's a more authentic, a more aware being in the world, which is nothing to do with touching your toes or standing on your head.
Thank goodness for that.
Nothing to do with that. I mean, you know, sometimes the way the mind is tricky, isn't it? And so the reason that we start with the movements in yoga is because the body is easier, and because, as we know, you know, trauma, pain, everything that we experience in the world is experienced through our bodies, and we hold that's the body keeps the score, isn't it? So, but we work through the body, and then through what we're experiencing in the body, we talk about how that relates to the mind and how that relates to life. And it's not just the muscles. We're, really talking about the nervous system, working with the nervous system. And that's true yoga. Not to diminish anything else. There's a place for everything. But it really ought to be life enhancing, life changing, life enhancing through that philosophy. And it doesn't have to be like sitting there listening to somebody for hours talk about philosophy. It's about how you, as you say, how you live and how you communicate.
I kind of feel like you're taking that philosophy and it's kind of spilling out into dance and drumming and
yeah, it does. So when I'm dancing, the reason that I brought the dance, well, I love dancing. It's that whole Studio 54 and sequins thing. But dancing is a way. Music. Oh my gosh, music is so healing, isn't it? And memory. But the practice of yoga that I practice and I mainly teach is Ashtanga yoga, which is a deeply rhythmic practice. It's a very strong practice, but it's deeply rhythmic. And we know that rhythm, and we know it feels good. And then we know the science of why it feels good. We know the science of why it works in balancing the nervous system. And dance is rhythm. And the way that I teach dance, though, it's a specific modality which has got a framework around it, and then freedom within that framework, which is really important. And it's dance with a yoga philosophy. It's a dance about, do this in a way that feels good. Don't dance for anybody else, dance for yourself. But here's a framework. The way that I teach dance is with lots of, inviting eye contact with each other, inviting people to sing to each other, to dance with each other. So it's, the yoga philosophy is embedded within the dance. And then drumming, of course, is, oh my gosh, I love the drum circles. So again, that's really about deep listening to each other. So drum circles, I don't set a rhythm. People arrive and sit down, they choose a drum or a percussion instrument, and they start playing. And then as more people come in, they sort of sit and listen and figure out how to come in. None of them are trained drummers. And a song emerges because of deep listening, because we're not normally, when people are having a conversation, you're not like this at all, beautiful, but most humans, when they're having a conversation, aren't listening. They're waiting and thinking about what they're going to say in response instead of deeply listening. And so much is not heard because of that. And when we deeply listen, you can tell when you're deeply listened to because you feel held. It's such a beautiful, beautiful gift to give to somebody, to be listened to. And that is what we do in drum circles. And we have musical conversations with each other. And there's an enormous amount of respect. And it's just beautiful to know that you're listened to and that you're responded to. And that's what we're doing in a drum circle. Of course, of all the other benefits of nervous system regulation and energy release and bringing in new energies and joy. I mean, they're so joyous, they're fun. There's dancing and whooping and hollering, but really it's been listened to. And awareness, allowing ourselves to completely drop into awareness of the present moment. Usually the present moment is okay. Of course, not always, but for most of us, most of the time, the present moment is a thing of beauty. And most of our suffering comes from guessing at a future, or regretting the past, or misremembering the past, or remembering a past that wasn't great. Usually the present moment is okay. And yoga is about trying to bring us into that the present reality. That is what awareness is about. And drumming is a way also of bringing us into the present moment, because if you're deeply listening, because this thing is improvised, you can't have learned it and remembered it, and there's no muscle memory going on. The only way you're going to participate in a drum circle is because you're blinking, listening. You can't be anywhere else. You're in the present moment. And without me even, communicating that when we talk, we have little chats during the drum circle, that is unanimously what people say. The guys in the who attend the homeless day shelter sessions say that, oh my gosh, I just had 20 minutes of not thinking about anything else. I had 20 minutes of my mind being quiet. I had 20 minutes of actually connecting, being seen. People who are homeless don't feel seen, don't feel heard, don't feel responded to. And so to have that in a drum circle is super important. In yoga, we're using the breath, we're using the body, we're using drishti, looking places, in order to come into the present moment. In drum, we're using the, improvised sound to come into the present moment with other people, with that connectivity. And you feel it in your body, you're fully here, fully there. So yeah, I love all of those things.
Yeah, gosh, I was just thinking when you were saying that, actually, it was kind of taking me to, the times when we would have, I'm going back some time here, but, we would have been sat around campfires in tribes.
Yeah. It is so
stories and connection, and yeah.
I tell people this all the time, but the Paleolithic caves where there are the paintings, they also have found drums made of rock, and they know that they're drums because it's big rocks with they can see where the little stones, little rocks that are next to these big rocks have been used to hit the same place over and over again, and they make these beautiful sounds which have this sonic signature, which we know takes us into an altered state, a deeply connected state. And wherever there are these paintings, there's often also evidence of music making. So I love that forever humans have been hanging about, painting, dancing, and making music together. It's who we are. It's what we're supposed to be doing here on this planet. It's just such a beautiful thing, and it's really interesting that you picked up on that, because people do, they, without me even mentioning, this is something that people say. They say, oh, it's still in us, it's in our DNA. We just sometimes have to reconnect with it. But the fact that people really, really often mention this, like, oh yeah, we would have been in caves doing this, is that we know it, we feel it, our bodies know it, and our bodies need it.
Yeah, I know, I haven't really been to a drumming circle, but I've been around when there's been people drumming at events and things like that, and it's like a remembering. I find it kind of, your body automatically moves, and you're like, hang on a minute. And it's like, oh, do you remember this, and kind of stuff. And I used to be a raver, and one of the things I loved was the way everybody was stomping in time to this beat, and it was like we became one big ocean on the dance floor in time with this music, but everybody was moving differently, but it looked like we were all so in time. And it's the same thing in the smaller scale, classes and things that you're running. I'm sure you'll see people's kind of energy connected. And
oh, definitely.
Yeah, like you were saying, singing to each other, and I thought, I'm a terrible singer, but I do love to sing to people.
I'm a terrible singer too, but I don't care. Yeah. I'm still going to sing at you.
I'm getting in my car. I'm going to come and drive to Preston. I want to come to one of these classes. They just sound so magical.
Well, I'm so fortunate, as I say, to do this work, and we do feel one of the things that makes humans human, it's thought, is that we cooperate more so than other animals do. We cooperate with each other, and it's thought that one of the reasons that we respond to music, to rhythm together in this way is in order to bring this cooperativeness, in order to enable that. And so it absolutely is human to dance. It absolutely is human to make music together, to be in a rhythm with each other. That is human. And that's why the pandemic was so damaging, because it split us asunder, and that was not natural for us. And I'm delighted that a lot of the predictions about, people won't want to, be in person together, that they've been proven wrong, and that people instantly flocked back together, because that is to be human. And it goes right back to that, central yogic principle of separation is an illusion. We are, you said it there, you're one moving mass. And we are. Rhythm connects us. We want to be connected. I teach on a Friday. We have an Ashtanga full primary class, which is it's a really challenging. It's challenging class, and they all know the sequence. This is a beautiful thing about Ashtanga yoga, is you learn the sequence so that your nervous system is remembering it. It's a place of predictability and control, which humans need in order to feel safe. And you just feel so safe in the nervous system. So anyway, and the people who come to that class, they know the sequence. So I don't demonstrate at all. And I literally stand and I count for 90 minutes, like a metronome, in rhythm. For 90 minutes, I count the breath. And everyone's in unison, and it is, oh my gosh, it's the most beautiful start to the weekend anyone could have. And everyone's connected, and the breath is connected, and the energy in that space after that 90 minutes is magical. Just beautiful.
I think the energy at the Mandala Centre is just absolutely beautiful. As soon as you walk in, you kind of like, oh, you know, there's like an attunement almost to, oh, this is how things should be. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Kind of
Thank
thing.
you. We're so blessed to that so many beautiful humans come together with intention to hold space for each other's healing, for each of us, you know, coming back to themselves. And I'm really clear about that as well with our community, you know, that at the start of class, you know, thank you for coming. Thank you for making this possible, because if people don't turn up, then there is no class. You know, it's not me that creates the class. It's the people who come together literally by coming to class. They're supporting each other, so not just themselves and therefore their relationships in their lives, but they're supporting each other. And then because of them coming to class enables me to then do work in the community, they're supporting the wider community, and then that ripples out. So literally people just come into classes and events at Mandala, ripples out into all this goodness, and the people who come there know that and come with that intention, and I think maybe that's why the space feels the way that it does, because it's full of beautiful people with beautiful intention.
Yeah, definitely you can feel the intention. And I'm just wondering, you know, do you have kind of plans for the future, maybe short term or long term? Anything that you want to share with us?
Oh, I'm such a, I'll do what the universe wants me to do, kind of kind of human. So we have been asked to do some work with people seeking safe sanctuary, which knows close to your heart, which we will be exploring and, you know, of course doing. So we're really looking forward to that. And other than that, I just want to hope that we can continue building this community. Everyone in Preston to be practicing self-love. everyone to be practicing yoga and drumming and dance, whatever it is. You know, awareness that brings us into closer relationship with each other. So no, I'm not really one for plans. Just keep listening. I think if you listen to the universe, she tells you what you should be doing, and that's it.
Taking guided steps when they come.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always open to whatever there is coming. So we've got lots of community work that we're going to be continuing doing. We've recently brought aerial yoga to Preston, which has just been really beautiful and has really opened up yoga to a lot of people who traditionally have not come to class. I get a lot of messages from women asking what the weight limit is, which is about 20 stone. And I think that's really wonderful, because yoga is for all shapes, all sizes. And it's lovely that they feel safe in the yoga hammocks. You know, there's a sense of, because we're cocooned, we're less exposed. You know, being exposed can be really frightening for a lot of people for a lot of reasons, and the hammocks, you know, sort of minimize that, which is lovely. So more work with the hammocks, some work with sound baths in the hammocks, because everybody keeps asking me, so I should probably do that. But yeah, just more humans sharing more love.
Sounds perfect to me. And we're just starting to run out of time really for our chat today. So I just thought I'd offer up to you. Is there anything else that you want to say?
No, I think just everybody keep shining your beautiful lights. And if you've thought about practicing yoga and haven't yet, then maybe have a go. And if you practiced yoga but you felt not welcome in a space, or that it wasn't the practice for you, then there are lots of different practices and lots of different teachers with different intentions. And so maybe you just haven't found the right one for you. And I would just like to send anybody who's listening, please take care of yourselves, love yourselves, and I wish you curiosity and joy and openness.
That's a beautiful message and wish, and I wish the same for you, Emma. And I just want to say thank you so much. I honestly feel like you are the future of yoga with your community work, and I really support what you're doing and I applaud it too. Thank you for being so amazing. So do you want to just let people know where they can get in touch with you, or the Mandala Centre, just maybe kind of sum up the best place for people? I know you have a Facebook page, don't you?
Yeah, we've got thank you. We've got a Facebook page which is Mandala Preston, and we've got a website which is themandalapreston.com. I am on Twitter and Instagram as Yoga Preston as well. So yeah, thank you. It's been a joy.
It has been an absolute joy. I've loved spending this time with you. It's been such an honour. Thank you, Emma, and thank you for giving us your time when you've got so much going on. You're holding so much of the world. So thank you so much, and thank you to the listeners. And I'll be back again soon. Take care now. Bye. You've been listening to the Healing the Patriarchy with Love podcast with Luna Anna. Subscribe and follow to join the tribe of Rebel Hearts.